Hi guys, today we learn of the highly controversial and strange subject of was the Kaaba a Shiva temple? Some years ago, I read an article proposing that the Kaaba was a Shiva temple before it was converted into a mosque by Prophet Muhammad. The article cited a long hymn in Arabic addressed to Mahadeva, who according to the article was the presiding deity of the Kaaba. The hymn, it was stated, had been composed in the reign of Vikramaditya of Ujjain in the 1st century BC. A friend who got interested tried to get the hymn traced to the extant collection of pre-Islamic Arab poetry. He approached several libraries abroad but drew a blank. He as well as I then dismissed the proposition as the product of that school of Hindu historians according to whom every building everywhere in the world was a Hindu monument at one time. But in the course of the present study, I have run into some facts which force me to revise my judgment. Holy shit. I am not yet prepared to say that the Kaaba was a Shiva temple. I, however, cannot resist the conclusion that it was a hallowed place of Hindu pilgrimage. The facts are being placed before the readers for whatever worth they possess. Hindu presence in Arabia. By now, plenty of archaeological and literary evidence has come to light to show that Indian ports on the coasts of Tamil Nadu, Malabar, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Sindh, Balochistan and Makran had participated since pre-Harappan times in the rich and vigorous trade carried on between China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka and India on the one hand and Iran, Arabia, Ethiopia, Egypt, West Asia and Europe on the other. It is also known that agricultural, mineral and industrial products from India formed a major part of this trade. Colonies of Indian merchants existed all along the coasts of countries bordering on the Arabian Sea, the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. At the same time, colonies of Arabian, Iranian, Ethiopian, Egyptian, Syrian and European merchants had come up all along the aforementioned coasts of India. The Arabs and Ethiopians had a larger presence as compared to the rest. Ibn Ishaq he was an Islamic historian, a scribe. Ibn Ishaq provides evidence that Hindu presence in Arabia on the eve of Islam was pretty strong. When Yemen was invaded by the Abyssinians, Saif bin Dhuyazan, a chief of the dominant Himayarite clan of Arabs, went to Khosrow, the king of Iran, for help. He said, "O king, ravens have taken possession of our country." Khosrow asked, "What ravens, Abyssinians or Scythians?" "Abyssinians," he replied. Ravens meant blacks, who were identified with the Indians and Abyssinians in the minds of Arabs and Iranians at the time. Later on, a deputation from Bin al-Harith waited, or maybe it's Banu al-Harith. Banu al-Harith waited on the Prophet. Now, quote-unquote, when they came to the apostle, he asked who the people who looked like Indians were, and he was told that they were Banu al-Harith bin Kaab. The Prophet, it seems, was quite familiar with Indians. In an article, an image of Wad, a pre-Islamic Arabian god, CH, I don't know what's the short form of CH, CH Muhammad Ismail observed, the image of Wad has been described by an Arab commentator as the figure of a tall man wearing a loincloth with another cloth over it, with a sword hanging round his neck and also with a bow and quiver. In front of him, a lance with a flag attached to it. It will be perceived that this does not at all describe the figure in the plate attached, which shows a short man wearing a kilt with pleats, like that of a Scottish Highlander. On the head is a close-fitting cap with a long tassel, which seems to represent a long strand of hair. It may be noted that Bedouins who come to Aden from the hinterland, while even to this day shaving the lower parts of the head with a razor, keep a tuft on the crown and sometimes a long strand of hair like the badi of the Hindus. From this I once thought that perhaps there existed a connection between peoples of Arabia and those of the Indus Valley, and I sent a drawing of this image of Wad to Sir John Marshall, who wrote in reply as follows. I do not think that there is any connection between the kilted figure from Arabia and the Indus people. Kilts were worn at all ages, and this figure I should take to be some 2500 years later than those of Mohenjo-daro. That is to say, he dated it at about 800 BC. Archaeological excavations since the days of Sir John Marshall have, however, proved beyond doubt that there were regular contacts between Arabia and Sindh. Even in the days of the Indus Valley civilization, as we have seen, Sindh, Balochistan, Makran, Fars, islands in the Persian Gulf and South Arabia were parts of the same cultural spread. Now, the pagan Arab pantheon. Prolonged contacts through trade and travel led to rich cultural contacts, particularly because Hindus as well as Arabs were pagans, and neither of them harbored exclusivism characteristic of prophetic creeds. Some of the pre-Islamic gods of Arabia were like Hindu gods. Students of comparative religion know that the pagan psyche everywhere and always has projected many similar forms and myths in respect of their divinities. The Sabaeans of South Arabia in particular were well known for transacting the richest trade with India. They had established colonies all along the western coast of India. They were sun worshippers and had a famous sun temple in the area. They believed in transmigration and the cycles of yugas, yug. But what is most significant, quote unquote, the Arabs gave the name Buddhist to the mythical founder of the religion of the Sabaeans. Buddhist was no other than the Bodhisattva. It seems that Buddhism had spread to South Arabia as Brahmanism had done earlier. Coming to idols in Arabia, the worship most widely prevalent was that of Baal, B-A-A-L, against whom the Bible and the Quran hurled many invectives. Commenting on Quran 37.123, Abdullah Yusuf Ali writes, both Ahab and Azariah were prone to lapse into the worship of Baal, the sun god worshipped in Syria. That worship also included the worship of natural powers and procreative powers, as in the Indian worship of the lingam. This is confirmed by W. Robertson Smith in his Religion of the Ancient Semites. This is a book. He says that Baal was quote-unquote symbolized in conical upright stones, much like the linga of the Hindus, and represented the male principle of reproduction. Hindus present in Arabia could not but view Baal as the Shivlinga. Several such representations of Shiva must have been present among the idols in and around Kaaba, and many more in the Arabian sanctuaries elsewhere.